Hi everybody, and welcome to the Great British Bake Off. What are we called?
Worth the calories, I think.
Welcome to Worth the Calories. I'm the Great British Bake Off.
You are the Great British Bake Off.
Goodbye. I started that sentence without knowing where I was going to go. Yeah, second time I've done that this week. I'm Matthew Vose.
And I'm Catherine Vose.
This is Worth the Calories, Great British Bake Off podcast. I'll figure out how I edit it all together later, or don't. If you're hearing this, I didn't. It was late. Before we kick off, we have been doing a giveaway over recent weeks, and we're very excited. Thank you to everyone who tweeted about us, who reviewed us. We were going to do 5 winners. We decided to be generous. We had 7 winners, so
Yay!
Keep your eyes on your Twitter DMs, on messages. We will get in touch with you and send out some exciting merch.
It's very nice.
I wondered if you were going to do some sort of sound effect. Can you hear the coasters?
Well, I was going to do a sound effect with the coasters, but I thought it might damage the coasters, and that would be a shame.
Tap them together like, see, that's real
coaster
recycled
quality.
cardboard.
They're very nice coasters. I want a coaster.
Thank you to everyone who tweeted about us. We had a few mentions on Instagram, which was lovely for Worth the Calories.
Yay!
So this week we are talking Dairy Week. Not a small town in Ireland. County.
Oh dear.
It can only get better from here.
Yeah.
What did you think when they said Dairy Week? What were you expecting to be the challenges?
Well, I was hoping for some egg custard.
Right.
I didn't quite get egg custard.
Yeah, no, it was very the milk side of it, wasn't it?
Yeah. But, I was thinking egg, milk, custardy stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of baking has dairy in it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? Slightly more Dairy Week.
Did they do non-dairy last year?
They might have done. I mean, I know they did vegan,
They
have
week.
done non-dairy
Yeah.
sometimes.
So they've doubled down on it, but it's slightly tenuous. I was expecting more butter or something along those lines, sort of solid dairy side of things. But,
Yeah. Meh.
Okay. Challenges. What did we think of the first challenge, which was to make a cake with a cultured milk dairy product?
I don't know. They all look like perfectly nice cakes, is what I thought. I wasn't massively excited by the challenge,
Right.
but I do think they all look like perfect. I suppose I'm just a bit like blasé about people cooking with buttermilk because you do it all the time.
Yeah, there is
Do you
that
know
as
what I
well.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that's just a normal cake baking technique, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it was fine. I thought it was interesting that so many of them use such similar cake moulds. I'm like, what's that all about?
Yeah, and not enough of them did it to make me think, it was part of the instruction.
Yeah.
So I genuinely think there is something in here about a cake mould that has lots of surface area because it cooks the moisture out better.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that might be the thing. It gives you a more consistent bake, perhaps.
Yeah. And most of them came out okay. I mean, we can talk about Michael's overachieving nature in a second. But like, I look at cake moulds like that and I'm like, it's going to get stuck in the crevices.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's partially because that's the experience we've had.
This is true.
Except when I've got one, an IKEA cake tin that is... It's not that sort of curved, ridged thing. It's actually so you have defined slices in it.
Yeah, I remember
often,
that one.
That
one
often comes out quite nicely.
Yes, it does. It does. It has some nice sharp ridges. It's just my dragon mould.
To decorate. Yeah, your dragon mould is very complex, though.
One day
I should get out the Batman mould. That's the one that we need to test it on. But I've never had cause to make a Batman cake yet.
I bet your nephew would like a Batman cake.
My nephew would like a Batman cake. Yes. And perhaps it should just be I'm baking on a Sunday, I'm going to make a Batman cake.
Yeah,
yes.
Take it to him.
Absolutely. Again, a very unstructured challenge.
Yeah,
which is interesting,
very free-ranging.
But this seems like the time to do it for the signature bake because it doesn't really count in some ways.
Yeah.
It helps them differentiate, I think, but there's no points for it.
Agree.
And when they all did it, for the most part, they came out really well. I have lots of beautiful, looks good, they like the texture, they like the nuts, it's very rich, they loved it. I've got plus signs all over my notes, and then a couple minus flavour, bit claggy, and then we come to Michael.
Yeah.
So one person struggled. he did use 2 types of batter.
He did, and the fact that he'd had to do it 10 times at home and only one of those 10 times had worked, he might have been better off just doing a normal cake.
Yeah. And if you're going to do 2, do it as separate bakes and layer it or something, or you know, cut it out and then insert it, or
have slightly less of the cheesecake filling. There seemed to be an awful lot of it, and if that's the weak point, well,
and it would have looked great from the way he was doing it. You could say, oh, actually, this is going to come out really nicely,
and it did seem to taste really nice.
True.
So yeah, what I thought was interesting with the tastes is the 2 chocolatey ones. They weren't that keen.
No, so Steph did buttermilk chocolate and raspberry, which was playing it safe slightly, but also if it comes off well, it comes off very well. They said very rich.
And they weren't saying negative things, but they just didn't seem to enjoy it as much as they enjoyed a lot of the others.
True. And Priya's chocolate and banana, I don't even have a note. I just have a plus sign. It was just it was right. That was good.
I think they really liked the banana cake bit of it, but they weren't that keen on the chocolate bit, which is dried and a bit over crisp on the outside.
Right.
So somehow the chocolate flavouring was not hitting their spot.
Faster, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, an interesting one, but a fairly forgettable round, I think.
I agree.
12 Maids of Honour.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Are you looking forward to these?
Yes.
Okay, talk me through why.
I love lemon curd. I am not quite as excited about pastry as bread, but I am quite excited about practicing pastry skills.
Right. We did a rough puff last year, didn't we?
For which one? Was it part of the Puy d'Amour?
Puy d'Amour, I think, maybe?
Yeah, the Puy d'Amour base. And then we piped the shoe on top of the rough puff. Yes. Yes, I think I quite enjoyed doing that. And I'm intrigued to see how we do the weird curd thing. And I'm just delighted that you get to use your muslin again.
Yay! Yes, because we have to make a cheese curd.
Right? See, I have not had these. I have had, what's it called? It's something like Yorkshire curd cake, where it's like curds and raisins and stuff. Yeah, your face. Would you like some Yorkshire curd cake?
More.
I'm sure it's not called Yorkshire
God's
curd
country,
cake.
my foot.
But there's definitely a curd cake that I've had with my mum. My mum likes it, that I really quite like as well. So I'm interested to see how this works. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to be boiling my own curds all the time, because I'm not, but I'm intrigued to see how it works. I'm totally not cutting out a Tudor rose stencil, though. I mean, seriously, what a faff.
I'm wary of the rough puff. I remember finding it really difficult last year, and just the butter melting faster than I expected, rolling it out and seeing that it was just rolling it out. I wasn't rolling a layer into it. Yeah. So I'm interested to try it again, but I'm wary of it. Having had that thing. So there was a comment from one of our listeners on Twitter, @JLMO, Jan, who hosts the Worth the Calories podcast. No,
that's ours.
Crikey, who hosts the Way Too Seriously podcast. She has started watching the show and listening to the podcast, cool. And we exchanged just a quick message about, you know, if she's going to try doing any of the bakes, and would she ever want to record a message for us. She said maybe, but she's more likely to do the signature bakes. Okay. And that has got me thinking, like, yeah, it'd be lovely just to do a nice layer cake. Just something I can really get into baking and so on. Or there is something with the technical challenges that it's slightly wearing. Constantly having to do different techniques and different skills that are the sorts of things I would stay away from.
See, that's why I like it.
Okay.
But I don't do baking the same way you do anyway.
And this is why I want to talk to you about it, because you know, how are you feeling about it? Because I am just feeling like, oh, another one that's a bit complex that I'm wary of. Oof.
Yeah, I think for me, being pushed well out of my comfort zone is what's interesting about it.
Okay.
Now, if it gets to one that is incredibly lengthy time-wise, I might think differently.
Okay.
But something that can be dealt with in under a couple of hours, that makes me do something I've never done before, that excites me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I like getting to try things. I think perhaps it's just that thing that I'm missing, just doing a big cake.
Yeah.
And getting to cover it in chocolate.
You could do that anyway.
Do I just want to make a Batman cake this weekend?
Make a Batman cake.
Is that all I need to do, really?
Make a Batman cake, absolutely.
So, Maids of Honour. I have never had a Maid of Honour. I've never heard of it. I thought this was going to be some sort of pastéis de nata type egg custard tart. I think you've never really?
No, I've heard of them, but I didn't know what they were.
I did see on Twitter our friend Abby at This A Shore, who it is one of their regional... I'm saying regional. She comes from Richmond area, I think, and has said it's basically the only local cake to them.
Okay.
So I think, Abby, if you are listening to this, you might need to either get us versions that are really good so we know what they should be like, or try baking it yourself and tell us how it comes out. But interesting that it is properly Richmond. Yeah. Surrey, Hampton Court Palace region.
Yeah. Well, we could take a trip.
We could take a trip. Do you think they sell them at Hampton Court Palace in the cafe somewhere? No. It was too technical for them. Cheese, whatever it's called, not cheese. Carrot cake.
Carrot cake?
Carrot cake's their thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good carrot cake, though. What do you make out of the fact that they all had such a disaster?
The main thing was that they all came out small.
Yeah.
Now, do they have one of those sets of cutters that are rings within rings within rings, so you can cut different sizes, and they all picked one too small? Or were they given a cutter that was too small?
Well,
because
it does seem a bit strange that the main criticism they had that they were all too small. I'm like, well, that tells me that the instructions were not necessarily clear enough.
Yeah. Well, I could understand it if it was that they were given a range of cutters and the first person picked the wrong size and the second person picked the wrong size, and at that point they're all copying each other.
Well, they did seem to have a range of cutters, because didn't we see one of them going, I'm not sure what cutter to use?
But she only had one. This is the thing that... Oh, did she have a few? Because
Yeah.
I saw her with one, so it just made me wonder of... Well, but you've got a cutter, so...
I'm pretty sure I saw at least 3.
Okay. So, picked the wrong thing, and it is a little bit surprising, because when you've got a muffin tray like that, and you're doing a thing with a pastry case, you fill the muffin tray as much as you can. So, we'll see. I'm looking forward to trying this.
Do we have big cutters?
We might have snowflake cutters.
That's not going to work.
We have Christmas tree cutters. We have those star cutters. They'll work. We could do star-shaped Maids of Honour.
No.
I might do it. That could be quite fun, actually.
Let's get some big cutters.
I'm sure we've got some circular ones.
Yeah.
Oh. Do you know, I think I bought some for doing Puy d'Amour.
Oh, really? Oh, we must have had cutters.
The multicolored ring ones. Yes.
Oh, nice. We've got some cutters.
We've got cutters. Hooray.
Puy d'Amour.
And if not, if any cutter making companies looking to sponsor a podcast. We then come to... Oh, do we want to comment on Priya and her attempt? Because everyone else was, they struggled, but it's technical.
I've got nothing to add to the Priya conversation. Poor Priya.
I think a very good learning experience for her, given she survived it. But let's talk about that at the end.
Crack on, love.
Final was 3 types of mishti, milk-based Indian sweets, with 12 in each type.
Yep.
I'm sure I've had these, but I can't remember specifically having them.
Yep.
Is it something you've had in your travels?
Yeah, I have. I used to spend a lot of time in Bangalore, and I had some very tasty mishti there. Okay. So, yeah, I quite like them.
Were there any standouts in the ones that were made? Because there was a big range being made. Were there any that you went, oh yeah, they would do?
Oh gosh. I think, to be honest, I probably would have happily eaten most of the ones that they produced. I didn't fancy Phil's. They looked fairly unappetising.
They did just look like sweets.
Yeah.
Rather than a delicacy sweet.
Yeah. But most of them, I was just like, oh yeah, try that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I did like what Helena did. I feel like it was suited to doing Sweet Shop really well, and then baking the biscuits for it as well. I think it suited the Sweet Shop more than it suited Alice's afternoon tea.
I felt Alice's afternoon tea seemed almost too far from the mission.
Absolutely, and a little safe on things she knows and can do.
Yes.
Which I don't think this was particularly testing.
Yeah.
But she did come out very middle, so fair. Steph's was obviously gorgeous.
Yes.
Looked great, clearly tasted very good, and she'd gone in it with the right sort of thought process, I think. I'm going to make them colourful and pretty.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to theme it on anything.
Mm.
So a little bit the same with Michael with his flag, and Priya with her, things that she knew growing up, but then flavours that she knew were traditional and would work in it.
Which ones appealed the most to you?
I think it's not Indian sweets are not something I tend to go to. When I've had them, I've gone, oh yeah, I can see why they're nice, but a bit like baklava and things.
Yeah.
It's just not quite my flavour.
Yeah.
For the sweetness of it,
Yeah,
maybe.
I get that.
Yeah, I think it might have been that sweet shop. There was just something in there like, yeah, I like that. That's a range of flavours, it's a range of styles, done very nicely.
Yeah. Nice. For me, I think Michael's is the one that most visually appealed to me.
Right, okay.
And I suspect that's possibly because it looked like the sort of elegant trio of desserts that you'd get in a nice hotel or something like that.
That's true. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
And again, a really nice take on how to do it. I think Rosie's idea was really good, doing them in cocktails. I don't think it quite came off.
I thought it looked a bit rustic.
Bit rustic. Yeah, we've all learned that term. And of course, the rice pudding did not
looked
look
revolting.
Didn't look appetising.
Sorry.
Disgusting, as Lucas would say.
Who wants to eat green rice pudding?
It really did look a bit off-putting, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about people leaving, because there is a bit of a scandal this week.
Oh, really?
There was a bit of a scandal that Phil was not expected to be leaving.
Okay.
Phil himself was very shocked, and a lot of people have cried possible fix, possible favouritism in him leaving.
Oh, really?
I think we have the benefit that I take notes, and that we sit there and we take it in and look at it. So I can look back and go, yep, he was criticised for his flavours in that first round. They weren't too taken with what he did there.
And his decoration.
Absolutely. He came 6th in the technical, so very middling. But if we're talking, Michael came 7th, so they're about the same. And then that end one, they didn't mention using the moulds, but I don't think using the moulds like that helped him. It's only non-traditional moulds, just trying to style them in something. And then they did all look the same, just with slightly different flavours.
Yeah, and they said his flavours were very synthetic. So they didn't actually enjoy his flavours, whereas everyone else, they'd been in raptures over their flavours and talking about how things were nicely balanced and stuff, and they actively didn't seem to enjoy his flavours.
Yeah.
And they'd asked for something that could be served at a wedding. You weren't going to pull out the little gnome tray at a wedding.
But they also said christenings and events. It was not as stylish.
It was not stylish.
No. I think this is the transitioning point of any Bake Off series. Yeah. Possibly a week or two earlier than in previous years, but where it goes from people are leaving because they've had bad weeks. Yeah. Not bad weeks in that way. They have had a bad moment. A little bit like what Priya had.
Yeah.
Or they've, as possibly about to see, they've dropped a cake has split open, something terrible has gone wrong.
Yep.
And that has left them, you can't come back from that. It was very difficult to come back from that. Yeah. We're now at the stage where actually the choices you make across the 3 could add up and come against you.
Yes.
So I think that's what he's fallen foul of. I'm not surprised. When I looked at it, I expected it to be him and Priya.
Yeah.
I expected 2 to go this week.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been surprised if they both went. Mm-hmm. Her technical was so very disastrous.
Yeah.
And her signature was not 100% praised with the weirdly crispy they weren't, but
also that last round was very good.
Yes, I think it was very good.
There probably was an element of expectation when she starts talking about having tasted these, knowing exactly what they are, and knowing people who've made them.
Yeah.
There is an element of expectation of, you should be able to step above. And I think she delivered on that.
Yes, I agree.
So I think I can stand it. I don't think I see quite that there should be controversy. Although I can also understand that maybe the way the show was put together didn't lead us to believe.
It's hard because I knew because I didn't know who'd won.
Okay.
But I did know that Phil had gone.
Okay, so as you were watching, did you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, doesn't surprise me.
So, yeah, I feel like they could have... But again, if there's no particular one bad thing, how do you Do you just keep having them making comments about him, in which case it becomes more obvious? It's interesting that Michael struggled because he obviously was Star Baker last week.
Yes.
And last week, Alice struggled and she was Star Baker the week before.
Yeah.
This is not an unusual thing. This is like winning the Challenge Cup in the Rugby League. You get a bit of a hangover.
And then you're down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it also goes to show that what we haven't got, which we sometimes have had in previous seasons, is we haven't got a clear heads and shoulders above everyone else favourite.
No, absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. Steph, I said last week that there was potential in Steph. You could see her being a bit of a dark horse. And I'm wondering if that's them editing for the series to show last week she was very good and this week she won Star Baker because, she was just a standout on every single round. Really, really good. And her sweets at the end looked great. Really attractive designs on them. And the cake at the beginning, it's all the flavours I would go to.
Yeah. I think David gave her a run for her money.
He did. But again, I would have been surprised if it had been him.
Yes.
Just because I feel like they made more of her being extra, extra good.
I agree.
No, so well done, Steph.
Yay.
Yeah, definitely would have had that. A good week.
Yes.
I think interesting.
It was interesting.
It really does feel like the start of the series proper.
Yep.
The weaker bakers have perhaps been weeded out a bit. People are used to being there. I feel like in us watching it, we are knowing who everyone is now.
Yes.
We've gotten to grips with what everyone's name is and what their styles are and whether they do Welsh or Halloween baking.
Yes.
And next week, 20s.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I like that. I like that as a follow-up to last year, like Danish week and things.
Yes,
That's
yes,
good. And,
yes.
and they have done traditional baking before with iron tins and so on. Choux souffle?
Say what?
That looked deep fried and we can't do that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what we can do with that. I'll tell you what we can do.
Tell me what we can do.
We can do baps.
Yay!
Why don't you tell me a bit about your bap baking?
I really enjoyed my bat baking.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did. What to say? It was a relatively...
I made some rolls and ate some rolls.
I made some rolls.
They were really good.
I ate some rolls. I was very pleased and relieved that my bread proved quite so well.
Okay.
Because I had been concerned that I was going to end up with some fairly heavy rolls.
Right.
But actually, they were all right.
How did you prove? What was the temperature of wherever you put it?
So I put mine into the conservatory
Right.
At the end of quite a warm day.
Okay.
So the sun was not beating down on the conservatory, but had been beating down on the conservatory all day. So it made the entire glass box on the side of our house quite a nice proving draw.
And just in case people think we're proper posh, the conservatory is where we keep baking equipment, garden furniture and washing.
Dry laundry.
Yeah. Oh, in the sunroom, darling. No, that ain't us.
In the glass junk room.
Yeah. The proper greenhouse. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it proved very nicely the first round. Cutting into 12 portions.
Yeah.
Was it 8 portions, sorry. Yeah, 8 portions.
Portions.
How did you find forming into balls and then how was the proof then?
I was a bit worried at first with the forming into the balls until I realised it said that you were actively supposed to knock the air out, so that's fine.
Okay.
It was fine, and then I proved in the same way.
Okay.
And they grew again.
Did you think they rose in the right?
They definitely did. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. And then I smacked them on the head with a rolling pin. I did worry about rolling them out too much when we were having to smack them down, and also we didn't have any proving bags, so I was like, I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of a proving bag is, but I'm pretty sure cling film will work. So yeah, it was relatively simple, but I think the key is to get the right sort of warm atmosphere for the proving.
Right.
That I think is where it could have not worked, but it did. So I was happy.
I will thoroughly agree with you on that.
Right.
So I did the same as you.
Yeah.
Made them, put it to prove in the conservatory.
Yeah.
Except I was making mine on a Thursday evening, Friday evening.
Yes. Friday.
Friday?
Yes.
Friday.
Friday.
I made them on a Friday evening because I'm exciting and stuff. Whilst coming back to watch the rugby league, because Wigan were playing. Oh no, because London were playing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then I put them in the conservatory. the weather had not been very warm on Friday.
Right.
Not as warm. And it was much later in the day.
Yeah.
So I was not happy with my proof to the
Right.
extent I got the plastic bowl, I stuck it in the oven.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I put the oven on 50.
Okay.
And put it in there while it was warming up for a few minutes. And then I opened the oven door.
Yeah.
Because I'm really good at using electricity. But left it heating up, but with, not necessarily baking it.
Yeah.
And in the maybe 10, 15 minutes I was doing that, it proved a lot more.
Okay.
Like it really did rise at that point. But that was at the very end of the hour. So I then knocked it back. I rolled them out. In rolling them out, they seemed to... You remember when I talked about the pitters and folding and not reintegrating? It kind of did that again.
Okay.
It didn't sort of merge the batter back together again. It seemed to be folded rather than rolled, which I don't know if mine is too dry, if I've done something to it, so I need to investigate that. And then the oven was still warm, so the oven wasn't on, but the oven was warm.
Yeah.
So I then put it in to prove in the warm oven.
Yep.
And the rolls proved okay. Same, had to use cling film, because no proving bags.
Yeah.
And then had to take them out of the oven while still proving for 5 minutes, so I could heat the oven to bake them.
Yes. Fair enough.
And then chucked way too much flour over the top of them.
They were super floury.
They were very floury.
Yeah.
I think the underproving of mine, and this is why it's quite interesting to be able to say, mine were underproofed. So there was a clear difference between ours, because mine did not rise in the same way as yours did. Mine were like rolls, yours were like baps.
Yes.
We could actually see the difference between the quality of them.
Yeah.
So I found really interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't rule out doing them again.
Right.
On a sunny day.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like the flavour.
Yes, I
Particularly
did.
the bottom of them, actually. I really like the flavour of them.
There was quite a bit of sugar in the recipe.
It's true.
There was a definite sweetness to the bread. But yeah, they were nice. And I happily had a bacon and egg sandwich in them.
Very nice. I had a bean burger in mine. Because I'm...
Sorry.
Because I made the vegetarian burgers that were part of the recipe.
How did that go?
Okay, there was a slight sense of throw everything together and form it into a burger.
Okay.
Frying up stuff was fine. Grating beetroot is not the most fun. Grating cooked beetroot is not the most fun. It kind of went everywhere. Forming them into burgers was fine. Freezing them was fine. Cooking them was fine. They stayed together and kept their consistency. Just eating them, they ended up as slightly squidgy. I think because the texture is so different from a meat burger.
Yes.
That as I was trying to eat it, it felt like it should be a burger, but then it would squish down more, and you.
I think it's the texture that puts me off.
The texture wasn't terrible. It was softer, and it obviously separated is not the right word. Squidged more.
Yeah.
But it was okay, and I went for really nice tomato paste in it, and a fair amount of spice and paprika and so on. So it had a good amount of flavour to it. It was okay. I don't know what I could have done to have made it held together more, to have a better consistency, perhaps. So I didn't make the tomato relish because I didn't want to buy a whole thing of mayo just to make tomato relish. But that's something I don't rule out doing because it could be quite nice.
We've got quite a lot of relish in the fridge.
That's true. We do have a lot of relish in the fridge.
For your many non-bean burgers that we eat.
Absolutely. No, so I was pleased to have tried them.
Cool.
Just as something a little bit different, but the problem is burgers are one of my favourite things.
Yes.
So...
Do you think that breadcrumbing the bean burger and having it so that there was a crustier outer coating on it would it have assisted? Did it already have a crusty outer coating?
Well, they had 50 grams of white breadcrumbs in them.
Oh, did they?
And 50 grams is a lot of breadcrumbs. Because breadcrumbs are very light.
Yeah.
And then in cooking it, actually, I made the outside really quite
crispy.
Crispy, tough.
Yeah.
Tough is not quite the right word, but it held its shape, certainly. But then once you start eating it and you're holding it like a burger.
Yeah. Just trying to think, how could one make the consistency
I mean, I made
better?
them quite thick. I made them like proper burger patties. So maybe the thing was to actually have made it a bit thinner so that when cooking it, the whole thing stays together more. But
No.
C'est la vie. I tried
C'est
a
la
thing.
vie. Well done, honey
Yes,
bunny.
thank you. Very good. Yes, what are we making next week? Souffle is going to be on the thing, but we're making Maids of Honour.
Yay.
Equipment needed. A sieve lined with damp muslin. We get to use the muslin. My dreams have been answered. A 10 centimetre round cutter, so she told us what to use on that. Muffin tray, baking paper, baking beans, Tudor rose stencil, and they've even given us the stencil.
Not doing a Tudor rose stencil.
So this week is certainly achievable with what we've got.
Yep,
We'll see what comes for next week. I think we should put a rule in. You don't have to have a Tudor rose stencil.
Yay.
I think you should have some sort of stencil.
I'll have some sort of stencil.
I think you need to cut something out.
What do you have any ideas of what you would like to stencil?
You need to surprise. You need to come up with something, and we can judge on what the stencils we come up with are.
Excellent.
My stencil is a circle. A rough circle.
Rough puff circle.
Exactly. Okay, so we're looking forward to doing that.
Yep.
Any other comments about Dairy Week?
Only that I am never ever going to spend half my life boiling milk to make a sweet.
Absolutely, absolutely. We will say, I don't even know what pun I want to make here. We will lay Dairy Week down.
No.
Do lay, olay,
no.
Dairy milk down? No. It's latte, so we should go to bed.
Oh, that's better. That's better. Yogurt.
I think we shall milk pun goodbye.
Yes, goodbye.